Are you joking, old man? The voice cut through the clang of trays and chatter inside the USS Kearsarge's mess hall. Lieutenant Junior Grade David Miller stood stiff and spotless in his immaculate uniform, holding a cheeseburger like it had personally insulted him. "This," he said, waving the plate, "is supposed to be a standard Navy lunch? You can't even melt cheese properly?" Behind the counter, the cook, a gray-haired, quiet man in his early 80s, didn't look up right away. Walter Hoffman was his name. A civilian volunteer cook brought aboard through the welfare program. His faded blue shirt looked as though it had seen half a century of laundry cycles. He scraped the griddle clean with slow precision, the metal spatula screeching softly. When he finally looked up, his voice was even. "No joke, sir. Just a cheeseburger." The lieutenant leaned in, scoffing. "Attention to detail, old man. This isn't a retirement home kitchen. We're underway. Mistakes here cost more than lunch breaks. They cost lives." A few younger sailors nearby laughed awkwardly. Miller smirked, enjoying the sound. "What are you doing here anyway, Grandpa? Volunteering? Or is this some kind of charity work program for washed-up vets?" The laughter died instantly. That was a line too far, even for bored sailors looking for entertainment. Walter didn't react. His steady gray eyes met Miller's for a moment, then flicked toward the spatula resting in his thick, scarred hands. "If you have a complaint, Lieutenant," he said softly, "you can take it to the executive officer." Miller chuckled, pulling out his phone like a weapon. "Oh, I will. Maybe record this too. A senile cook messing up lunch. That'll be good for morale." He gestured dramatically, and his hand brushed across the front of Walter's apron. The contact was brief, but something in Walter shifted. Not anger, just stillness, like an ocean going calm before a storm. Pinned to Walter's shoulder strap, just beneath the edge of his apron, was a faded patch, a crudely stitched Thunderbird, diving into a wave, the colors worn to brown and green, the kind of design no regulation uniform had used since the 1960s. To the sailors, it looked like nothing. To Walter, it was everything. A memory, a promise, a symbol of the day he should have died, and didn't. He could almost smell the salt and diesel again, feel the storm-tossed deck under his boots. The Thunderbird wasn't decoration. It was survival, but now it was just fabric, brushed by an arrogant hand, and Walter said nothing. Chief Petty Officer Eleanor Vance finally spoke from across the mess deck. "Lieutenant Miller, I think you've made your point." Her tone was calm, but it carried the weight of authority. She was a propulsion specialist, mid-30s, sharp as the ship's hull plating, and she hated bullies. Miller's jaw tightened. "Stay out of this, Chief. Administrative issue. Food service standards." "Looks like harassment to me, sir," Vance said flatly, stepping forward. "The man offered to fix your order. Take the burger and move on." "I will not tolerate insubordination," Miller hissed, "or incompetence that undermines morale. Get back to your station." Vance didn't move. Her eyes flicked briefly to the old wall phone near the drink station. She knew exactly how far this could go if someone didn't intervene. As Miller continued lecturing, Vance turned slightly, dialed the 3-digit code for the command duty officer, and whispered into the handset. "CDO, this is Chief Vance engine room. Urgent call to the XO's office. Code red, non-life-threatening. Situation in the galley involving Lieutenant Miller and civilian cook Walter Hoffman." A pause. Static. "Yes, sir. That Walter Hoffman." The lieutenant's attempting to remove him. "I believe disciplinary action is being taken outside of authority. Please alert the XO immediately." She hung up, eyes hard. Down by the counter, Miller puffed up his chest. "Enough. I'm revoking your clearance here. Get out of the galley until logistics arranges your transport back to shore." Walter didn't move. He just stood there, spatula in hand, posture calm and unreadable. Up 2 decks, in the quiet of her ready room, Commander Alicia Reyes was reviewing maintenance schedules when her secure line buzzed. "Reyes here." "Ma'am, this is the CDO. Chief Vance reports a situation in the mess hall. Lieutenant Miller is confronting the civilian cook. Name, Walter Hoffman." The pen fell from Reyes's hand. "Repeat that name." Walter Hoffman, ma'am. Her stomach turned cold. Confirm that spelling. Hoffman, ma'am. Reyes stood abruptly. Raise the captain. I want him on comms now. Clear the passageways. Full escort to the mess hall. This is not a disciplinary issue anymore. It's a command-level situation. The CDO hesitated. Security, ma'am? Over a food contractor? Reyes's voice dropped an octave. If that's the Walter Hoffman, we've made a catastrophic mistake. Back in the mess hall, Miller was mid-lecture when the heavy thud of boots echoed through the corridor. Then the hatch flew open. Captain Harrison strode in, flanked by Commander Reyes, 3 security personnel, and the ship's senior master chief. The entire mess hall froze. Trays stopped clattering. Conversations died mid-sentence. Every sailor rose instinctively to attention. Miller straightened too, thinking his superiors had come to witness his decisive action. He snapped a crisp salute. Captain, sir. Commander, I've handled a disciplinary infraction. The civilian is... Silence, Reyes barked. Captain Harrison didn't acknowledge Miller. His gaze went directly to Walter Hoffman, and in an instant, every line in his face changed. Recognition, shock, respect. The captain stepped closer, slowly, deliberately. Then, before anyone could comprehend what they were seeing, the commanding officer of the USS Kearsarge raised his hand in a perfect salute. The Master Chief followed. Then Reyes. The room became a frozen tableau of reverence. Walter hesitated, then returned the salute. His motion was slower, his shoulders stiff, but every angle was perfect, practiced from 1,000 parades long past. When his hand dropped, Captain Harrison finally spoke. Harbor Master, he said, voice low but carrying through the hall. Sir, we regret the delay in welcoming you aboard. This is your ship. Is everything to your satisfaction? Walter's lips curved in a faint smile. Bacon's a little soft, Captain. Otherwise, she sails fine. A ripple of laughter broke the silence. Nervous, disbelieving, awed. The captain turned to Miller, his expression turning glacial. Lieutenant, do you have any idea who this man is? Miller stammered. A civilian contractor, sir. Reyes's voice snapped like a whip. Captain Walter Hoffman, retired. Call sign, Harbor Master. 3 tours in Vietnam. Tactical controller during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The man whose operations are still taught at the Naval War College. You just dressed him down over a slice of cheese. The captain's voice was quieter and somehow deadlier. That patch you mocked? Task Force 72.5. In 1962, Lieutenant Hoffman navigated a crippled destroyer and a supply ship through a hurricane while dodging Soviet subs using a sextant and a broken radio. He kept a carrier group on station. That patch isn't decoration. It's the reason we're not speaking Russian today. Miller's face had gone gray. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Sir, I didn't... Ignorance, Harrison said, is not a defense for an officer. It's a disgrace. He turned back to Walter. Sir, on behalf of my crew, I apologize deeply. Walter wiped his hands on a towel, voice quiet. Don't be too hard on the boy, Captain. He's sharp, just hasn't learned yet that pride isn't worn on the collar. It's earned in the work, and the work never stops, not even in a mess hall. He looked at Miller gently. Lieutenant, I made a mistake on your cheese. You made one on judgment. Judgment's what keeps a ship, and her people, alive. He touched the Thunderbird patch. Never assume the quiet man has nothing to teach you. Miller was reassigned within the week, to shore duty and mandatory leadership retraining. The story spread through the fleet like wildfire. Harbor Master became legend again, a quiet reminder to every sailor that humility is part of honor. Walter Hoffman kept volunteering. He still cooked burgers, still smiled, still sat with the youngest recruits. He never mentioned that day again. One late evening, Lieutenant Miller returned to the mess hall before his transfer. Mr. Hoffman, he said, voice small. Walter looked up from his coffee. Rough seas tonight. Yes, sir, I came to apologize. Walter smiled faintly. Then learn from it, son. Respect the uniform, and everyone who's ever worn it. That's the only apology that counts. He reached out a hand. Miller shook it firmly. Good luck, Lieutenant, Walter said. Earn your own legend. And as Miller walked away, the old veteran returned to his griddle. The metal spatula gleamed under the lights. The work, as always, continued.